Hey everybody, welcome back to Furniture Flipping Teacher and welcome back to Flipmas Day 4. We've got a really awesome piece. It's a Heywood Wakefield. Let's see what we can do with it. So I got this piece at an estate sale that the house was totally filled with Heywood Wakefield things. They were all like priced at higher prices probably that they should have been. This one was only priced at $200. So of course I had to snag it. I've never had a Heywood Wakefield before, but this one definitely needs some love. Like there's a lot of failing finish on the top, on the drawers. I kind of toyed with the idea of restoring it, but I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. So stay tuned. First step of the flip is always to clean. This time I'm going to be using my Simple Green. This is a degreasing cleaner, which is the most important part about cleaning because you're trying to get all of the oils, dirt, grease, grime off of the surface so that whatever you're putting onto your surface, whether it be stain or paint, that is going to get the best adherence. I just spray directly onto the surface and then wipe everything back. Now that we've got it cleaned, I'm gonna go ahead and take off the hardware here because I can just see some of the filth underneath there that's kind of gotten in between the seams. I'm gonna go ahead and replace this hardware though, but it does need a little bit of love. It's pretty dirty just from like grabbing it and like using it over the past several years. I mean, if I'm correct in like my years and like when this was made, it was probably back in the 50s or 60s. So it's a pretty old piece. So just a lot of wear and tear. So it comes off pretty simply. And then it's just a long wooden piece, solid wood. And I've got some plans for it. So I'm definitely gonna be reattaching this. All right, I gotta tell you this, because that was awesome. I was having trouble getting these drawers to go in correctly, but like nothing's wrong with them on the slides. This one was sticking out past this side. This one was sticking like in too far. Before I labeled it, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna check and see if maybe I flipped some things around and see if maybe they were just in the wrong spot. And it worked. Everything looks perfect now. That is why I say label the drawers, but before you label them, make sure that they go in the right spot in the first place. But I'm so glad that I figured that out because that was gonna be like a problem because it was very visible. So I'm glad I figured that out. Let's keep going. Now that we've got everything cleaned, it's time to sand, and I really am thinking that for this piece, since there's so much failing finish, that I just need to go ahead and get all of it off there, even though I'm not really planning on staining it. But we'll see once I get the finish off what I think of the wood, and maybe my plans will change. I'm gonna use a 120 grit with my Surf Prep sander, and I do have a little foam pad on there right now to start. There's some curves on the edges of the drawers, and so I want to make sure that we keep those intact. And if it's not working quite right to get that finish off, I may take the pad off, but we are going to get started. All right, it is time for the last part of sanding. Well, maybe the second to last part because I forgot about the feet. But these handles are also going to be sanded down. I think that they're gonna look super slick if they don't have this orange tone anymore. And like I said, they're super dirty, but that's like really in the, it's just in there. So I couldn't even get it clean with my Simple Green, but my sander is gonna help me get all of the finish off. We can decide what we wanna do with them after the finish is off. All right, these are done. They look so much better. I used a 120 and then I finished it off with a 180 just to get it really, really smooth, which it did. So Now, last thing I'm gonna sand is the feet. So we're gonna flip this guy on his back and see what's underneath. Now that all the sanding is done, I did a little prep work down here with taping off areas I don't want to get any primer. So my original plan was to just paint some of this and leave some of this wood. So with that being said, now that I've got it all the way down to the bare wood, I am going to need to prime, because typically when you've got the exposed wood like this and you're going to paint, there's a potential for that bleed through, and we don't want the bleed through, the tannins in the wood, the colors in the wood to pop through our paint. So I'm going to use a stain blocking primer, the Lily Moon Eclipse stain blocker, and this is a gray color because the color I'm going to go for is kind of a darker, so I don't want to go light to white and then back to a darker color, because then that will take more paint to cover. So the gray is sort of right down the middle of the road with like light and dark. So whenever I'm going darker, I use a gray. And then I've got my oval brush here, which is one of my go-to brushes, especially for the Lily Moon paint. It just glides on. And one of the great things about the Eclipse stain blocker is that it is also self-leveling, just like their paint. So not only do you have level paint, you've got a level primer, which is great because it's awesome to start with a level surface when you do go putting your paint on as well. Okay, so we've got the top free and clear of the dust particles, and I'm just gonna go ahead and brush this on. We'll kind of see and gauge if we're gonna need 2 coats of this because it is that raw wood. My guess is that we're gonna just need 1, but for like really great stain blocking, you could use up to 2 to 3 coats of this. All right, that's gonna do it for the first coat of primer. So once that dries, we'll come back and see if we need a second one or if we can move on to coat number 2. Alrighty, the primer's dry and I've made the executive decision that I'm not gonna do a second coat because I'm not seeing any bleed through the first layer of primer. And plus we're gonna be going with a dark color, so I'm not really worried that those bleed through colors would show through the dark paint. So we're gonna be using Starless Nights. This is from Lily Moon's newest collection from the Harvest Festival colors. They put 9 colors out, but they're always available even though it was the Harvest collection. I have not tried the Starless Nights yet, but it is a deep dark blue and I'm excited to use it because I really enjoy using navy colors. This primer dried so smooth that I'm not even going to need to take like a 400 grit sandpaper and sand back any texture because there really wasn't any. So I can skip that step and move on right to painting. All right, that is the end of coat 1 on the paint here, and it's looking really great. It's already drying on the drawers, so we'll be able to do the second coat in no time. All right, it's time for coat number 2, and I'm just gonna do the same thing. We got a really nice smooth coat 1, so for coat 2, just gonna go ahead and paint on with my same brush. I just put it in a little Ziploc bag overnight, and now it's ready to go. Didn't even have to clean it out. So I decided we are gonna do coat number 3 on this piece, and I'm going to go ahead and take a Surf Prep foam abrasive in very fine, and we're gonna go over the second coat just really briefly. There's not a ton of texture, but I really want it to be super buttery smooth, and doing this over the second coat is gonna really help that third coat go on super smooth. Okay, now that we got that third coat of paint on, it's time to move on to this wooden hardware, and then things are really gonna start speeding up and coming together. So, as you guys saw me earlier, I sanded this down to the raw wood, but I think the lighter tone on this dresser, I think it just needs to be darkened a tad bit as far as the raw wood goes. So I still want to be able to keep the raw wood look, but I'm going to go with a little bit of a darker water-based gel stain from Lily Moon Paint, and the color is going to be the Old Fashioned. So this is kind of like it's a brown, but it has some gray undertones, and I've used this before on a few pieces, but I think that this will be the perfect tone to go along with the navy blue that we've got going on the actual dresser and the drawers where these will then sit on. So when you're doing the water-based gel stain, I always just like to use a little bit of a mist just to kind of get my wood prepped there. And then I use a chip brush to apply. Well, I kind of put it on with the tube, and then I spread it along with a chip brush. Occasionally, if you've used your stain, it can kind of dry up and get clogged a little bit. It's still usable, but just something to kind of keep a lookout. If it's not coming out of the top, it's not because it's empty, but just because it might be a little clogged up there. And then I'll get my lint-free cloth and we'll wipe that back, and it's giving us a very, very kind of a cooler toned brown that I think will go really nicely with the dark navy blue. So there's kind of the difference in the tones. We're going for the darker look. I'm gonna do the rest of these 7 hardware pieces and the legs of the dresser, and then we'll be able to and see the masterpiece come together. So I'm gonna go ahead and start putting things back together, but I did notice one last thing that needs to be done with the drawers is that the insides need to be cleaned up a bit. There's just a bit of gunk in some of them, and they're kind of dirty, so I'm going to take my sander with a 120 grit and go ahead and sand the insides down, and then I will go ahead and grab my Lily Moon furniture balm. The sweet orange scent is my favorite, and then I'm going to apply it with the brush, and this is going to like bring that wood back to life on the inside. It's going to revitalize it, give it some moisture, kind of give it a little drink. I'm going to be putting this on all the drawer slides to really help the wood slide really, really nicely when I get the drawers all put back in. I've already done this one. It's really pretty on the inside now, and the drawer slides in and out really, really nicely. All I've got left to do on that one is to put the handle back on. So after I get everything sanded and buttered up, we'll go ahead and put those handles on. All right, day 4 of Flipmas is in the books. This piece came out better than I could have imagined. I did go ahead and do a second coat of the stain on the handles because the handles seem to be a tad bit darker than the feet did. And so I just needed to darken it up a little bit with that old-fashioned gel stain, but it totally worked. And I actually like the darker wood better than I did the lighter wood. I'm really impressed with how this piece came out. It is a Heywood Wakefield, so hopefully not too many people come after me that I painted it, but you guys, the finish was absolutely trashed. It was gone. You saw me sanding it down. It took me very little time to sand this whole thing down to raw wood. So that just tells you that that finish was very, very, very much so on its last leg. I'm picturing this piece, it's very masculine, so like maybe in a baby boy's nursery, like with some woodland animals, I don't know. I think that that would be really sweet and precious in a nursery. But wherever it goes, I'm super stoked with the way that it turned out. I think I'm gonna go ahead and price it around $500 here in the store and on Facebook Marketplace. So we'll see how long it takes for this baby to sell. Again, all products are gonna be linked down below. We've actually got paint up on our website, fournierfurnitureco.com, so you can go and check that out and purchase your paint along with the aromas and anything else you can find on our website. We sold Flipmas Day 4 a few minutes after I listed it, so that was awesome. One inquiry, she bought it immediately, and then I got banned on Facebook Marketplace. That's a whole nother story, but we're about to go deliver this piece. So I just wiped everything down, and then we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up for them so that it doesn't get damaged in transit. You guys, just as I was getting ready to wrap this piece up, I noticed something that I have never ever seen on a piece of furniture before happening a week or more after I've gotten it finished. I'm seeing these weird markings, kind of, I think it's bleed through. That's really the only explanation. Even though I used stain blocking primer, it was like a water-based stain blocking primer. But this is different bleed through than I've ever seen before. It's not necessarily like the wood tannins popping through. It's more looking like some type of glue, or I don't know, oil maybe. I'm gonna show you an up close really quick, but it's just confused me, and I'm super bummed because we were about to go deliver it like in an hour. I already had to postpone the delivery one time because Neiman got really sick. I just feel horrible when this happens, but I also will feel worse if I delivered this and then it started doing this after she already purchased it. So what we're gonna do is take all of the hardware off, do some shellac primer, and hopefully that will seal everything in. And then I'll paint another coat and let it sit for a couple of days to make sure that that's not gonna bleed through again. So we've got some of the markings right here, all the way across, right here, here. And when I pull the drawer out, the edge of the box is about at that same exact spot. So that's why I'm kind of thinking it might be like the glue that is holding these together. I just don't know. It's baffled me. If you've got any ideas, let me know down below in the comments, but we're gonna go ahead and get this fixed. All right, the shellac is dry, and I just messaged her, this lady that purchased it. She is so awesome, you guys, because like I said, this isn't the first time I've had to postpone. Usually it's not like this, but she's just so understanding, super flexible. I mean, I know if it were me on that other side, I would be a little like, is this even real type of thing? But we are real. And so I'm super glad that she is understanding of all of this. But I'm gonna go ahead and put on another coat of paint and see if the shellac keeps that bleed through or whatever is popping through the paint covered and sealed after I put the paint coat on. All right, we got another coat on the front drawers. I'm gonna let it dry, again, kind of see if in the morning when I come back, there is any bleed through. If not, then we'll wait a little bit longer to make sure before I reassemble, just to make sure that I don't have to, you know, kind of spray another coat of shellac, see what's going on. But I'm pretty confident that this is going to hold in those stains. So cross your fingers for me. All right, so we came back here this morning and I checked it out. No stains were popping through. I did one more coat and it is finally dry. So I'm just gonna take my light, actually it's Neiman's light, but sometimes I like to use it for just close-ups on the furniture to make sure everything is looking good. And I'm not seeing any bleed through popping out where I had seen it before. So I think we're good. We're gonna go ahead and put the hardware back on here in a little bit once everything is totally dry, and then we're gonna be delivering it this weekend. But this video has to go out today, so you guys aren't gonna see us delivering it, but if you're interested in seeing that, then go check out our Instagram page at Furniture Flipping Teacher so that you can see the fulfillment of the delivery of this piece. Again, I sold it for $495, so we're getting a total profit of only around $350 because I did spend $200 on it originally, and then with the material cost, but still a pretty good profit if I say so. It's $250 profit. $250 plus $200 that I spent is about $450 plus the material cost about $45. That's the real profit, my bad. So anyway, check us out on Instagram. Thanks for watching. See you on the flip side.